again, welcome back to our little video series about all things assisted reproductive technology and surrogacy. I am Rachel Wexler. I am an assisted reproductive technology attorney working with clients in New York, New Jersey, and Colorado. And the name of my firm is Trachman Law Center. I am here with George Ryan, who established a surrogacy agency called Rainbow Life, which focuses on surrogacy across New York State. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the process of matching gestational carriers with intended parents in New York. So, George, thank you so much for being here to talk to me about this today, and tell us a little bit about your process.
Well, thank you, Rachel, for having me again. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
And so today we were talking about matching process. I have 3 sections that I broke it down into. The first section is the preparation, what goes into making a match. And the second part is for the matching factors, things that go into deciding on a match. And then the final section is the final steps of the matching process. So our first section, preparation, starts with when you first contact us. So when you reach out, say, you know, I'm a parent or a surrogate, it's pretty similar for both. We send you a link and you fill out a form so that I can prepare. Oh, sorry, we set up a free consultation time. Then I send you a form before we have that meeting, which can be usually virtual these days. And then from that form, I have a general idea of your story and you and what your hopes and dreams are. Once we have that first consultation, we can discuss more details. But then it's after that, if you decide to join Rainbow Life, there is a more lengthy, comprehensive form that goes into the very, very detailed specifics of your journey, how you see it, what you expect, what, you know, how you envisioned it going. And so that gives us a very concrete idea of what your match would look like. And it's important at any stage, you know, initial contact, first form, second form, to be completely open and honest. Most of these questions aren't right or wrong. You know, it's just who you are as a person and how you see things going. So always be open and honest. You're not going to hurt my feelings. You're not going to, you know, you don't have to worry about somebody not liking what you said. So just be yourself. And part of our second long form is a personality test. That just gets to help me know you, since I haven't known you for a long time. There's 16 major groups of personalities, and that tells me where you are and how that works with a different personality or surrogate personality. So then we develop a digital profile for intended parent and surrogate, like I said, and a document to go along with that. And we do offer also an optional video story of your, you know, your life, you as a person and your hopes in a surrogacy journey. It kind of gives it a little more personal touch and helps communicate very effectively. Pictures are worth 1,000 words and videos are worth 1,000,000, as I like to say. So it's a great option. So, and you have control over, you know, who you want to see it and who you don't want to see it. So we will go over that as well. So it's not just, you know, boom, it's out there. So we you know, respect your privacy, of course. So that's the end of preparation. Once that's done, we look at our profiles, intended parents and surrogates, and we look for some primary key factors. And varies a little bit depending on, which one you give more weight to. That's part of our conversation. So things we talk about ahead of time and things that I look at when I'm looking at two profiles. One of the ones for other agencies is how many embryos. Now, Rainbow Life is a single embryo only agency. It is becoming more pronounced throughout the space of surrogacy. Some clinics are, in favor of that. ASRM is in favor of that. I think more and more surrogates are in favor of that. So we just kind of eliminate that as an option. So if you're looking for, a twin journey, now of course you can have identical twins. Nobody has control over that.
But a planned twin journey.
There you go. Or as I call it, intended.
Right.
So they, it gets rid of that option. So that used to be an option, but now it's getting less. So that was one. Next one is like transfers. How many transfers do you want to go with a single surrogate match? Termination options, under what circumstances are you willing to discuss termination of the pregnancy? And in New York, the surrogate is what's the word? Help me out, Rachel. What's the law for termination and surrogates' rights?
Well, it's the gestational carrier's constitutional right, the same, for all women to, everyone has a constitutional right to end a pregnancy in given situations. With surrogacy, typically that conversation, would only really need to happen in the case of an emergency or something, something going on with the pregnancy. So if a doctor has recommended that an abortion is necessary, then that is where that conversation would play out. So it is it is important for gestational carriers or people who are thinking of becoming gestational carriers to understand that that is their right, and that's obviously important for intended parents to understand as well.
Yes, and so we have that conversation up ahead of time to make those matches. So that's why I put it on as one of the large core factors in matching. So we want people with similar ideas on termination outcomes. So there's.
George, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Do you in your intake, do you ask about COVID vaccines?
Actually, I just did come up with that in my form. I did. So I asked the both parties if they are vaccinated. And I don't have a hard rule. I do want to understand the situation around those choices. I know it is our ASRM's high recommendation that pregnant people, of course, they cover both surrogacy and infertility. They consider any pregnancy high risk for COVID, negative COVID effects. So while I definitely support that idea, I am open to discussing that. However, there would have to be a very good reason for not having vaccination. And again, if a parent agrees with that philosophy, then that would be a match. But yeah, so I'm more guiding on that than saying no or yes. But thanks for that question. That's a very important topic. So another factor as part of making matches, things like delivery types. Some surrogates prefer a hospital, some prefer it at home. So those options are also discussed. And there's things like timing, you know, sooner, later, when you want to start a journey. Religion can be a factor for some people. Location, are they close enough? And contact during pregnancy, after pregnancy. You know, there's a lot of factors that go into deciding a match. It's not always just, you know, I like that person. There has to be a good foundation for making that match. So the last step. So the profiles are presented to both parties. I only do one at a time. I don't give a whole slew. You know, and then you give me feedback if it's a good match, not a good match. And if it's not a good match, I'm going to ask you why. And again, please be open. I want to make a good match. So then the introductory process, I guide the two parties through the introduction phase, help them, you know, establish a good rapport and understanding. And then the match develops from there. I like to give it a little time. I don't like to rush too fast. I think it's important to get to know each other. As I mentioned before, I am a parent through surrogacy. So, you know, ours went fairly fast. My last one, I had other matches that ended, but on the last one, we moved pretty quickly, but you know, we did take a little bit of time to get to know each other. And the last final step of a match is the contract, which Rachel knows much about. And so once that contract is finalized, signed by both parties, then it's an official permanent match, and you will go forward. That allows you to do medical procedures after we get everything covered. And then I create a match sheet, which is just this, you know, has the basic information for both of the intended parent and the surrogate for the professionals, so that they have the information. Since it's usually, you know, in an IVF situation, it's usually a couple that is, you know, basically one unit. But surrogacy is unique, whereas there's two separate units coming together for a common hope of having a successful pregnancy. So it's a little more complicated. So you have to know like which attorney goes to which person, and then, you know, there's two different psychology evaluations. So everything's almost times two. So we like to put it on one sheet, make it easy for everybody to understand.
Yes.
And there is one more thing. So when you first get a profile, sometimes you don't agree with the match. And again, you tell me why. That's common. That's not unheard of. It is rare. I like to just say that it is rare after you accept the match, and even up through contracts. Again, it's rare, but it can happen that it does break, and it is a right of both parties to end the match at any time up to pregnancy. Once the pregnancy is confirmed, then the legal process follows through until the end.
But I would say, you know, sort of stressing what you said before, in order to make sure that that matches don't break and that doesn't happen very often. It is very, very important for both, you know, the surrogate and the intended parents to be really honest, you know, with the agency about what they're looking for, because the agency is, you know, the middleman is the person making the match, and it's really, really important to just be very honest about the things that are priorities, and the, the aspects of the journey that you're worried about, or anything like that, so that the matches can be as successful as possible.
Yes, thank you for saying worried parts, because that is part of preference. What am I worried about?
Yes.
So we want to avoid those.
Yes, and it's a long and emotional journey, on both sides. So it's really important that everyone feels comfortable with everyone else. And I've worked with intended parents who, have very specific, the criteria for gestational carriers. I've worked with parents who grew up in another country and want to work with a gestational carrier who speaks Spanish or who speaks French, or someone who is geographically close by, that's, even though you work only within New York, still New York's a big state. Yeah, and it's, and it matters, and
Yeah.
Distances can be a very hard part of the journey. So there are,
if you want to be a part of the appointments all the way, and you live in New York City, it's hard to go up to Plattsburgh just for,
yes.
visit.
Yes. Well, can I ask you, as a parent through surrogacy, what are some takeaways from your own match that you think made your match successful?
Well, I'm personally, I'm a pretty open person. My requirements were short. I didn't have a lot of requirements. My match was younger. I'm older, but that didn't matter to me. Things like that. Trying to think. Yeah, I mean, and then after the match, after being open to the agency about my match, and I was open to my surrogate as well as we went through the process. And yeah, I think open is very important.
Yeah, it allows for communication, and also I think particularly during the contract phase, if people feel comfortable with each other and they know that everyone is being honest, even if the parties disagree about something, there's a way to get to a middle ground. So I think,
and I will say, with an agency that does help. It is important to have someone to talk to, because you said it is emotional. I mean, I've been there, I know. It was like, oh, my baby. But yeah, so having an agency, it's like you have somebody to talk to first, to bounce things off of. And of course, we know both parties as well. And yeah, you can kind of, it smooths things out a little bit, calms things down. Yeah. Things come up.
Right. Yeah. It's a long process, and it's, there's a lot of moving parts. And so things definitely come up, and, people have questions. So I think that having an agency is one of the most important things, just so that there is someone that you can talk to who is an expert in the matching process, and in how to set your expectations. So I think that's all really important. Well, George, thank you so much. And, if anyone watching has any questions about the matching process in New York, or just anything related to surrogacy in New York, please feel free to reach out to either one of us. We want to be resources for the whole New York community, anyone who might be looking to expand their family through surrogacy, or looking to serve as a surrogate. So, George, thank you.
Thanks again, Rachel.
Everyone stay tuned. We will have some more videos coming soon.